We live at an interesting time in history when gifts of God are coming down to the earth in the form of advanced technology to help us imagine the world in a new way. And some of these technologies will be very useful to people. It will help them to see the things of God better. So these technologies are good. Um, the great technologies we already have. So you know, or if you don't know, you ought to know that you are equipped with a quantum computer equivalent. It is your mind, and it works in quantum ways, in ways that are beyond understanding of humans. In fact, you have a computer, and your mind and heart, in combination with God, is capable of doing things that surpass the augmented reality that has yet to be developed. 10 years from now, scientists will still not be able to achieve the immersive augmented reality that you can achieve using what's called the sacred imagination, using your imagination or using belief. And so I speak of these things because God is having me build my Jesus Greg world using ancient technology that I already possess right here, gray matter, and using it in a way that I previously had not, accessing some quantum features by the use of training. And I'm about to show you some of that training. In particular, um, God has me creating an augmented reality with common things in my life, making them Jesus centric, having them overlay into my mind and heart reminders of Jesus. And by reminding myself of Jesus, by remembering Jesus, I'm able to conjure his spirit. I'm able to get a greater portion of his spirit than I would otherwise. And then there are things when that spirit is upon me that God wants me to remember, um, including Jesus, of course, but also things Jesus has told me. So, what you're about to see is the process by which God is doing this. And I just wanted you to see it as a form of augmented reality because that Jesus is having me do the virtual world that Jesus is having me build in the Jesus Greg world, in the Jesus verse, um, would be disappointing to people and will be disappointing to people who prefer the technologies that are being built by um, corporations right now. One of those corporations is called Meta. So they're building worlds in the metaverse. But the worlds that Jesus wants me to be involved in building, including my own Jesus Greg world, is what's called advanced leapfrog technology. It leaps over and accesses an even higher technology that they don't understand or appreciate. And so it's a hidden treasure. You're about to see one. So, in my Jesus Greg world, this common scene you've seen as a bathroom, you're familiar with that. It is being augmented by Jesus and by my mind and heart, so that when I sit down here on the toilet, which I'll do now with my clothes fully on, and I look at that screen right there, it's going to show my mind. My mind will do the augmentation, and I'm able to see in my mind's eye inside of me, just the same way I can see Jesus, imagining, sacredly imagining. There'll be certain things that I need to know here and be reminded of, important things. Same is true in the bathroom. So what I'm about to show you is just one part. It's the shower curtain part of the reconstruction, the virtual reconstruction of the bathroom. And what I do in this bathroom, this overlay, using my imagination, I, of course, can do in most any bathroom. I can imagine some of these same images that you're about to see and I'm about to see. So I will use technology, video graphic technology, to reinforce these things in my mind so that they can be brought up. Just like you can bring up a song, if you learn and memorize a song, you can overlay your day with some music. And you can do that, of course, you already know that, with images and memories. That is advanced leapfrog technology that Jesus has given his children. And my point is, eventually, this entire bathroom will be filled with augmented uh, virtual reality approximations that call to mind the things God wants. Will call to mind the things that Jesus wants me to call to mind, to inform me, to comfort me, to guide me, lead me, guide me, walk beside me. The bathroom. Before Jesus started doing this, throughout my entire life, a bathroom was just a bathroom. It wasn't some kind of temple room where there was instruction going on and things that I need to remember. But that's changed. Born again. This room used to be called the bathroom. You probably have one of these. But now this room has become the born again room. The born again room. And it features things inside. This room features a lot of things that you can't even see with your natural eye. But I can, or I'm learning to. It's kind of like how Jesus is invisible. This born again room has a lot of invisible. Because what's happening here, right here, is the kingdom of God is being built upon this framework, this reality framework that we call the bathroom, born again room. And the kingdom of God is becoming manifest, built out. Someone might think, it's odd. These movies that Jesus makes with Greg's help, they seem to be very peculiar. Maybe just custom fit to Greg. Yes. Let's talk about that since you mentioned it. Let's talk about it before we dive on into the nuts and bolts of Jesus's advanced leapfrog augmented reality technology. The technology that creates an augmented Jesus-themed reality. Let's talk about that before we look at what Jesus is doing with the born again room, the bathroom in my Jesus Greg world. I am commanded by the one who is creating this movie, the one whom I'm helping make this movie, Jesus, to remind you that what you're about to see in the rest of the movie is pretty darn elaborate, pretty darn technical, and thus probably of interest and of need to very few individuals, very few mortals, at least at this time in history, being mostly of interest to the architects, engineers, and designers of early Zion, of which I am one. If you can imagine that, sacredly imagine that. Okay, technically speaking, in my Jesus Greg world, the shower is called an anchor, a memory anchor for creating augmented reality. The shower is an anchor in the sense that it is a starting place to use, eventually, the whole entire bathroom, including shower, tub, sink, and toilet, as one huge sacred, a dynamic memory container. What we'll be doing is converting it into a tool of revelation,
Actually, the shower anchors, that is, it begins for me and others who are trained likewise, the cascade of reminders of what Jesus wants us to think, feel, and do in relationship to the bathroom. It cues it up. It cues up my sacred imagination. Imagination, the faculty or action of forming new ideas or images or concepts of external objects not present to the senses. She had never been blessed with a vivid imagination. Number 2, similar. Imaginative faculty, creative power, fancy, mind's eye, interest, passion, curiosity, preoccupation, the ability of the mind to be creative or resourceful. Technology gives workers the chance to use their imagination. Similar words: creativity, imaginativeness, creativeness, vision, inspiration, insight, inventiveness, invention, resourcefulness, initiative, ingenuity, enterprise, originality, innovativeness, individuality, unorthodoxy, nonconformity, cleverness, wit, quick-wittedness, genius, flair, panache, artistry, artistic power, the part of the mind that imagines things, a girl who existed only in her imagination. Again, before we get into the nitty gritty of how the shower is being built out in my Jesus Greg world, Jesus wants me to emphasize, for me, for most of my life until very recently, that's how I previously imagined what a shower is. Until recently, when Jesus started retraining my mind and my heart, retraining my sacred imagination to imagine the shower in a high glory way for a wise purpose in Him. So too, for many Christian people, even now, a shower is just a shower. For most, a shower is not a holy altar. A shower is not part of a grand, holistic training system designed to train the heart and mind towards a new culture called Early Zion. For most people, the shower is not a super significant way in which Jesus daily reinforces major prophecies He has sent down to them to personally comfort them and guide them. For most people, a shower is not a place where they rigorously practice, overlaying regular life with a Jesus-themed, Jesus-augmented reality generated using their sacred imagination. However, He has, for me, at this time. By the same token, most Christian people, including me, Ruby on Rails for Dummies is just another book they will never read that trains people on a server-side web application framework written in Ruby under the MIT license, a model view controller MVC framework providing default structures for a database, a web service, and web pages. Jesus has not called most people, nor me, to read said book, while very few people, He has. By the same token, for most Christians, including myself, the Special Forces Qualification Course, or informally called the Q Course, is the initial formal training program for entry into the United States Army Special Forces. Is one of the many courses offered in the United States that they will never enroll in. Me neither. Jesus has not called these Christians to enroll in said program. Me neither. While other, be it few, people He has led to enroll in Special Forces Qualification Course. By the same token, for most Christians, the dandelion is a weed meant to be killed with weed killer, not to be thought of as some special food from God's garden that Jesus wants them to eat in a manner holy, like the Holy Sacrament. On the other hand, He actually has called me to do that very thing. So, the point, Jesus leads us all to do different things based on our specific mission on earth, based on what our little piece on the little piece of Zion He has assigned us to build. My little piece of that billion-piece puzzle that will be Zion is to help set up mind and heart retraining systems that God helps children to hear Jesus better, more easily, more persuasively, and to remember what his will is for them specifically. Special instructions Jesus has given them as part of their retraining for the new Jesus-centric culture coming forth in the latter days. Likely, Jesus has a multitude of different ways he will retrain the sacred imaginations, the augmented realities of his children in Zion. This is just one you're going to look at, a prototype, Jesus tells me. But it is one that I, Greg, need, and one that Jesus is leading me towards. One size fits one. So you do what Jesus puts into your heart to think, feel, and do, and I'll do the same. And here's something he's put in my heart. So now it's time for the nuts and bolts. It's time for me to explain to myself and to others what Jesus is teaching me, how to convert a shower and a whole bathroom. First thing to understand is that what you are about to see is based on Memory Palace technology understandings. You can learn about this Memory Palace technology in episode 10 of the movie called Pluck Out My Eye, a movie Jesus made that I helped him with. I'm including the link to episode 10 of the Pluck Out My Eye movie in the YouTube description field, where you can just click on it. And while you're watching episode 10, you will see that I present 2 additional movie links within episode 10. Unfortunately, you'll see that those 2 links presented in the movie are upside down in the movie, so very hard to interpret without a mirror. So as you will notice, I have included these 2 additional links in the YouTube description field. Okay, I assume you have watched Pluck Out My Eye, episode 10, Memory Palace. With that basic understanding, you're prepared to watch and understand how one part of the born-again room, a room also commonly called the bathroom, is getting built out in my Jesus Greg world into an augmented reality generator. And thus you're about to be introduced to key concepts of Jesus world building, actual nuts and bolts of how you would build out all of the rooms of your Jesus world, step by step, if Jesus leads you to. Here we go. This is the first graphic. It is a basic map, an overall framework of what Jesus is having me do. You can see that the framework presented here is titled Temple Process, Temple Process, how Jesus has me memorize his prophecies. It is titled this way because, as you will soon see, Jesus has given me specific instructions, commandments, revelations about what I am to believe and do now and in the future. Jesus has given me these things in a form of a prophecy known as the Twisted Tree Prophecy. This prophecy itself, like all prophecies from Jesus, has power to augment reality, my reality, to change how I see the world, to make it more consistent with how Jesus wants me to see the world. And of course, different from how normal culture teaches me how to view my world. God's ways are not man's ways, of course. We will take it step by step, and you will see how everything here ends up being projected, imagined. We will take it step by step, and you will see how everything here ends up being projected, imagined, recalled upon the shower curtain in the bathroom. First step, step 1, receive and record Jesus's downloads, that is, important personal revelations for me. Receive those into Jesus TV scripts in my Jesus Greg world. Below this step, you see a specific set of revelations that Jesus wants me to train my mind and heart to easily recall as I go forward on my life's mission. Again, the revelations are contained within a prophecy called the Twisted Tree Prophecy. If you'd like, you can read the entire prophecy starting with episode 0, where you will find a link to the next episode. So follow episode 1, you'll get to 2, and so forth. As before, I've included the link to the Twisted Tree Prophecy in the YouTube description field. If you decide to read the entire Twisted Tree Prophecy, then you will begin to see how Jesus is having me condense and symbolize and translate my understanding of said prophecy down and down and down until it can be represented and memorized as a series of images in my mind, ultimately allowing my mind and heart to play out the information of the Twisted Tree Prophecy onto the blank shower curtain. Like a movie screen is what the blank shower curtain is going to be used for. A movie screen in which my sacred imagination is like a sacred movie projector. If Jesus puts it into your heart to read the Twisted Tree Prophecy and follow the sequence of episodes all the way to the document's titled Daily Read, the Twisted Tree Prophecy Summary Brief. If you get that far, then you will see how step 2 works in detail. So step 2 is highlight and abstract. Jesus highlights the most important, he has me highlight the most important iron rod revelations in the scripts, in the prophecy, and bring to the fore the most essential words and phrases into a single document, which of course is the document mentioned earlier. Daily Read, the Twisted Tree Prophecy, Summary Brief. Here at step 2 is a good place to introduce the obvious process and memory technology that Jesus is using an approximation of in the bathroom with me. In particular, I refer you to the practice of studying with index cards as being one of the most well-known ways of mastering new information. So this is like that. However, as the following article shows, there is more to it. There is more to it than simply writing a few words down on a piece of cardstock. So I'm going to share the link so you can read about using index cards. So see that also in the YouTube description. I'm assuming that you have read the entire article on the 3x5 cards. Thus, you see the aim ends up being to convert vast amounts of information eventually into images that prompt the mind and the heart to remember what Jesus wants you to remember, to believe. At this point, Jesus wants me to remind you what you are viewing is advanced leapfrog technology. Leapfrog because it is from Jesus and because of the prophecies that can only come from Jesus and can only be made useful and actionable from Jesus. Notice the article didn't say anything about Jesus. No, it didn't. Step 3 is roughly implied in the article that you just read, of course, minus Jesus, altars, and prophecy. So here's what step 3 is. Step 3, symbolically recall, symbol, recall, and alter, embed. Jesus has me do daily recall, memory practice, of the essential elements of the revelations until it is automatic and embedded within daily altars, scenes, pillows, blankets, even shower curtains. And under step 3, you will see what will eventually be done throughout my entire Jesus Greg world, not just the bathroom. To be done, build symbols, mnemonic devices into Groundhog Day, into my normal recurring day, build them into altars that I interact with daily in ways that remind me daily of Jesus, but also specific things like Jesus' prophecy to me, the Twisted Tree prophecy, and many more prophecies that are to be spread throughout my Jesus Greg world, of course. Storyboard slide. This slide brings to our attention what we are essentially doing with Jesus on the shower curtain. It is like storyboarding that is done in the movie. The storyboard is a graphic representation of how your video or your movie will unfold, shot by shot. It's made up of a number of squares with illustrations or pictures representing each shot, with notes about what's going on in the scene and what's being said in the script during that shot. So, storyboarding is a brief, condensed version of something that's more elaborate. So, in this case, I will be storyboarding on a shower curtain some detailed information that Jesus wants me to keep in mind, that I might recollect what he wants me to do, think, believe. And so that's what we are doing. We're building that storyboard so that I can play it in my mind.
A storyboard is a graphic representation of video will unfold shot by shot. The idea of storyboarding was developed at the Walt Disney Studio during the early 30s. A storyboarding is a document that specifies the visual elements, text elements, audio elements. There are 3 ways storyboarding your e-learning module or video will help you. Storyboarding saves you time, makes production easier, and is the clearest way to share your vision. While it's true that creating a storyboard takes some time, in the long run, it will save you time in revisions later, and time is money. Storyboarding forces you to thoroughly plan ahead, thinking through all of the scenes you'll need, the order learners will progress through them, and how the scenes will interact with the script. We've all experienced trying to explain something verbally and having the other person just not get it. This happens because most people don't have much experience visualizing something from just a script.
Well, I decided to shoot this last part of the movie with my cowboy hat on. I figure, well, mostly I'll be the one watching these movies. God doesn't tell me what his plans are for these training movies, but I do suspect that there'll be a few architects, engineers, and designers who he'll use these movies to train. And then eventually these movies will be remade by other architects, engineers, designers, perhaps. I don't know, but I like these movies, and I like that Jesus makes them, lets me help. And so I figured, hey, I think I'd like to look at myself with a cowboy hat on this morning. And I am grateful for these movies. I'm actually anxious to see what happens. And so he had me scripted, so well, anyways, here's how this next part starts out. From here forward, the remainder of this movie will show images and underlying ideas and thoughts that Jesus is having me storyboard onto the bathroom shower curtain, meaning storyboard in my mind, implanting them into my sacred imagination, supported by some other tech tools, like videos, like this video. Remember, Jesus is having me do this so that daily I can look at my shower curtain, actually look at it while I sit on the toilet or while I take a shower or whatever, or also look at it just mentally, meaning I could just be laying in bed and just think about it, or I could be on a plane and just think about it and recall the shower curtain no matter where I am, in the bathroom or not. And specifically recall the things that Jesus wants me to recall. As we go along, I will briefly call out the key things that Jesus wants me to remember and emphasize from the Twisted Tree prophecy. This represents the storyboarding on the shower curtain. Jesus wants me to start out with the fish scene from The Chosen, a blue fish swimming a different way than the other fish. The blue fish, which appears to be swimming the wrong way, you're going the wrong way, Greg, swimming the wrong way from the perspective of the other fish, is used to symbolize me, Greg Muller, who has been commanded by Jesus to do certain things that most other people are not commanded by Jesus to do. Or they're ignoring his commandment to do so. Swim like Greg's swimming. I don't want to. That's possible too. Regardless, you will notice that rather than simply having a static picture of the fish scene, Jesus is enhancing, augmenting my Jesus-themed reality by having me watch this opening scene from the movie The Chosen. In fact, to make it even more memorable for me, Jesus has replaced the normal cartoon graphic, which most people see when they're watching the opening scene of The Chosen, with this upgraded, reimagined, unauthorized opening scene featuring fish that look more real, thus making greater impact on my mind and heart. I'm thankful that Jesus showed me that one. This is a good place to emphasize that this is a technique in building and augmenting Jesus' reality with the advanced leapfrog technology of my sacred imagination that Jesus is having me use. This fish scene represents something Jesus will have me. What Jesus is having me do in this fish scene represents something Jesus will have me do to enhance my sacred imagination throughout my Jesus Greg world. So that when I recall this shower curtain scene, and I will recall the Twisted Tree prophecy, I will also recall it in my memory more richly, more immersively. Sometimes Jesus will also use additional reinforcements, including smell, sounds, songs, food, etc., to reinforce this basic storyboarding activity that you're watching. For example, Jesus might have me prepare a special meal of baked fish, maybe even make one of them a bluefish, a special meal of baked fish that are meant to remind me of the swimming bluefish who I am. I'm the bluefish in this instance, so that I can taste it and remember the taste of the fish that's swimming in my mind. Perhaps Jesus will also have me smell, say, like Asian fish sauce. You know, that smell of fish, like fresh fish. You can kind of smell it in fish sauce. Maybe you'll have me sniff that as I'm watching the blue fish swimming against the tide clip upon the shower curtain. You get the idea. And we are in no hurry to add all these different elements. Jesus will direct me when it's time. We'll just keep it simple. For now, it's just a shower curtain. But soon he may start having a fish song, and we'll have a fish fry, and that shower curtain's going to have a lot more immersive qualities.
Fish sauce. Fish. Tasty fish. When you are a bluefish and you think all is lost, do not be discouraged. Just remember your shower curtain. Sometimes God calls us to swim a different way. Sometimes he calls us to memorize things so that we'll have a good day while we swim a different way.
The first thing Jesus has me imagine is me, blue, swimming against the school of other fish who are not called nor chosen to carry out my particular mission on earth. This lonely fish reminds me that Jesus is prophesying something I already know. He's prophesying something I already know. Sometimes Jesus calls us to do lonely work that is not understood by others around us. And it is hard to swim a different way than those around you. When I watch that graphic, that swimming video, that's what it reminds me, like, oh, he seems to be going the wrong way. And this reminds me of the loneliness of the lone fish, calls to my mind, brings attention to my mind, the pressing need such a bluefish as I would have and do have for comfort, to comfort and encourage my attention what Jesus has promised me and others. That is, he calls others to swim differently, get used to different, lonely too. Jesus promises us that do swim against the school of other fish. He promises to send us comforters. So that's what the fish reminds me of, is a promise. A promise of what? Comforters. Now, in my mind, I see the bluefish kiss the blanket. What kind of blanket? Well, we call it a comforter. Yes, the comforter. It is a comforter that has the word. What word's on that comforter, Greg? Word, W-O-R-D. It's written upon the comforter being kissed by a fish. Which word reminds me, the word reminds me of the type of comforter that Jesus sends those who need comforting. A comforter that Jesus knows is ultimately most effective. You're comforted by word. Yes, the word of God, meaning specifically the word of God that Jesus sends to that lonely, struggling little fish. That lonely, struggling fish. How can he do that? Well, he's being comforted by words he can hear. #hear. Meaning, even more specifically, that little fish, me, is hearing prophetic words. Those are the real comforting words of Jesus. In my case, prophetic words from Jesus that have been gathered together into an actual movie script called The Twisted Tree Prophecy. This Twisted Tree Prophecy has specific instructions to me, Greg, that help me understand the difficulties I have faced in the past and that I currently face in the present and will yet face in the future by virtue of swimming the way that Jesus commands me to swim, a different way than most of the other fish around me. And indeed, I am comforted, like a person who is in a very cold place would be comforted by a thick blanket. Jesus' words to me within the Twisted Tree Prophecy remind me that I'm not doing my own will, I am doing God's will, and that I should not be surprised if I'm being asked to do hard things and to do things that others around me don't understand or like. In fact, it's been prophesied. Where? In the Twisted Tree Prophecy. So that is the first block, the first square of the shower curtain storyboard. The first thing that occurs to my mind. A blue fish kissing a comforter that has the word on it. A picture says 1,000 words. With training and practice, I suspect that this first storyboard picture will eventually tell me 10,000 words and more. More words from Jesus that comfort and instruct. Okay, coming up next, the bluefish kisses Rosa Parks and Elon Musk. Wonder what they have to do with the Twisted Tree Prophecy and helping that bluefish understand, what am I doing? Swimming in a way that other Christians are not and other non-Christians. This is odd. This is odd. And then Jesus will tell me, yeah, I've called you to do some different things. Don't worry. There's some other fish that'll join you shortly. Weird fish? Maybe. Like me? Maybe. Wait for it, wait for it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to release this movie, Jesus Tells Me, a little early before it's done. And that's what I've done before, piece by piece. But you see the direction that Jesus has taken this movie, don't you? That we are going to take the main elements of the Twisted Tree prophecy and we're going to put them on the shower curtain. And I'm going to describe them. So I've just described the first square, and I've described it to you. I've described it to me, and it's meaningful. And we will describe the next square where the fish kisses Rosa Parks. And I'll describe things that are basically in the Twisted Tree prophecy that reminds me of when I see that fish kiss Rosa Parks and then Elon Musk. And that reminds me of other people whose picture you won't see. Rosa and Elon are enough.
The blue fish, who I am called to be, reminds me of other blue fish who, in history, have been called by God to swim the opposite way that most other fish in their society were swimming. And other people, certain folks even living right now, swimming a different way than all the other people in their community and in their society. One of these blue fish in history is Rosa Parks. Quote, called the mother of the civil rights movement, Rosa Parks invigorated the struggle for racial equality when she refused to give up her bus seat to a white man in Montgomery, Alabama. Parks' arrest on December 1st, 1955, launched the Montgomery bus boycott by 17,000 black citizens, end quote. Thus, on the shower curtain storyboard, meaning also soon playing out in my mind and heart, is the blue fish, me, kissing Rosa Parks, who is pictured sitting on the bus. Rosa was one of the first people who Jesus put into her heart to say, no, enough is enough. I'm not swimming that way anymore. I'm not going to the back of the bus. That's hard to do, to say that, to say no, when most everyone else is saying, yeah, okay, I'll go along, get along. Jesus told me that he has called me to be Rosa Parks every single day. Give Rosa a kiss, Greg. I will, Jesus, a big Jesus kiss. In remembering mentally kissing Rosa Parks with my mind and my sacred imagination each day, I am being viscerally reminded of specific things Jesus tells me in the Twisted Tree prophecy that, again, Jesus gave me to comfort me and guide me. That's what prophecy can do. With the Rosa fish kiss memory prompt, Jesus is simultaneously telling me not only to recall Rosa Parks, but also recall many other people I admire who Jesus also called and does now call to swim against the vast majority of people. Other fish, Lehi, Nephi, Moses, Gandhi, Joseph Smith, and so on it goes. Lots of people have been called to swim against. When those names of the rebel bluefish throughout history come cascading into my mind, I'm automatically comforted by the knowing that sure enough, these people faced similar rejection, disdain, discomfort, finger wagging from the people, even good people, who were swimming a different way than Joseph Smith swam, or Joan of Arc swam, or Jesus swam, or Gandhi swam. I'm reminded that, historically speaking, I'm in good company and that I should not be surprised at other people around me
who are not called to my exact mission may disapprove of what I'm doing, believing, sometimes even strongly disapprove of the way that I am going. Because Jesus neglected to tell everyone on the bus, attention everyone on the bus, this is Jesus. I'm going to have Rosa Parks here defy the authorities so that I can start doing a big boycott, start up this civil rights movement, rev it up, and make some major changes in the United States of America and throughout the world. Nope, Jesus did not make such an announcement. Jesus only told Rosa, stay right where you're at, daughter. The other black people on the bus were just doing what they had always been doing day after day for years, getting along. Some of them probably thought, Rosa, quit being the hero. Girl, get out of that seat and get back here. Now is not the time to start civil disobedience. Who do you think you are? And bless their hearts, right? They, too, could have simply been listening to the still small voice that told them, no, don't join Rosa. You go to the back of the bus. Keep swimming the way you are. You just go back there and watch what I'm doing with your sister Rosa. I'll have you participate in this civil rights movement later. Just sit down for now and watch. That's what we need to do, is do whatever that still small voice, whatever we believe that still small voice is telling us to do, even if it means swimming with the rest or swimming against the rest. So I feel satisfied to bring an end to this movie with the understanding that I will make a series of other little movies that then can conceptualize the rest of what is going to be on the shower curtain. And as those things develop, because I showed you, Jesus did, using me, showed you how these things can get enriched, more rich, more immersive with other elements coming together. So, for instance, the fish fry, which I think is going to be a thing, smelling the fish sauce to remind myself, of course, of the fish, and maybe more fish songs and so forth. And for each element, yeah, we'll look at that. End of